Hello everyone. So today we will see about slowly changing dimensions. So have you ever changed your home address and suddenly noticed your online orders still going to your old place? Or have you ever imagined what happens when you change your address or your personal information to a database like Uber, Amazon, or any other applications? Have you ever wondered what happens behind the scenes? Like now, let's just imagine that you're running a company with millions of customers. So, how do you track these changes in your database? Do you override the old address, or do you keep the old and new, or store somewhere and store the addresses somewhere entirely new? So that's exactly where the slowly changing dimensions come into play. And today, let's make it super simple. So, what is slowly changing dimension? So, this is a fancy term here in data engineering side. So, SCD. So, we used to call that as SED. That means slowly changing dimension or dimensions that change slowly over time, like a customer address or job title. So we don't often change the address. So like most people change the address like once or twice or thrice in 4 to 5 years. So it's that's why it's called a slowly changing dimension. For example, we can take our mobile number. So most of them won't change the mobile number under any cost. So that's something that changes really slowly, so that's called slowly changing dimension. So in data warehousing, we use SCD techniques to decide how to handle those changes. So do we update the value or keep both old and new version or store it separately? A simple example, as I said before, a customer moves to a new city. So you need to decide whether you need to replace the old address or keep both the record. So this is something that needs to be decided by the business, and there are some techniques for that which we are going to see in the upcoming slides. So there are five types of slowly changing dimensions, and we'll be seeing one by one. So first is let's understand why does it matter. So reporting depends on history. If we don't track changes properly, we might lose the history or inflate the results. That's why we use SCD types to decide how to handle these changes, because this is something that is really important to a business. And we'll see what is type 0. So type 0 says that keep the original data forever. Use when values should never change. For example, a customer's birth date is never going to change, or a customer sign up date is never going to change. So these values needs to be kept forever without deleting, because for example, companies like Amazon will know your birth date and they can send you promotions, and uh, these dimensions can never be changed. So this is what is type 0. Now we'll go into type 1. So type 1 is overwrite. So overwrite the old value. So here type 1, no history is tracked. So as you can see, if you have enter your name, so your name is John and you have entered it as JHON. So we will be overwriting this and we'll be replacing with the correct name. So that's what is type 1. It's simply like overwrite operation that happens over that particular value. Next is type 2. So we need to have the, so some companies they wish to have the history of the changes that they are making to the database. So add new row. As you can see the track, so type 2 we track full history, add new row to each change. So for example, here you can see this customer ID 101 was in the address 12 Lane Street from this date to this date, and currently they are not in that address. And so now they have changed their address from 12 to 13, and you can see that the start date is So they have changed the address on this particular date, and end date is null because they are staying at this current address right now. And yeah, as you can see, current is yes. When this current becomes no, the end date will be getting added. So this is called type 2, where we'll be tracking the, so this is the history. So history of changes that is happening in the database for the customer ID 101. So this is called type 2. Now we'll see about type 3, where we'll be adding a column. So we'll be storing the limited history, whereas in type 2 you can see we have stored the start date, end date, and the current. We used a boolean variable like yes or no to see whether they are currently staying there or not. Type 3, so will be like this is the updated address and this is the previous address. So this is also very simple. This is what type 3 is. And we'll go to the type 4. So in type 4 will be creating a separate history table. So keep current in main table, keep all the changes in another history table. So we'll be creating a history table, and where we will be storing this uh, customer history. Will be storing the address of this customer. So all the old versions will be saved here in the history table. So that is called type 4 slowly changing dimension. And this is the overall summary. As we can see, type 0 and type 1, there is no change because we, that's a fixed value for 0, type 0. And type 1, we overwrite. For example, you can take an example of wrong, I mean, misspelled name. So this is the type 1. Now you can see type 2, we track full history, like for example, date, yes or no, and those things. So add new, and type 3, where we see we add only one column, so which tracks previous address. And type 4 is we create a separate history table for. So these are the types of slowly changing dimensions, and they are really easy. If you just could go through the slides, you'll be able to understand this really easily. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.